Welcome to First Time Watching. There was a TikTok trend where people were asked, would you take an ungodly amount of money, knowing that if you did, an invincible snail would follow you for the rest of your life, and if it ever touched you, you'd die. That's basically the premise of the movie it follows. Except the main character doesn't get unlimited funds, and the thing that follows them is either a terrifying stranger or a woman with her titty randomly popping out. With a 95% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie stands among the truly great horror films. They achieved this with a brilliant script and a truly unsettling overall vibe throughout the movie. So without further ado, please like and subscribe as we dive right into the explanation of It Follows. Annie comes running out of her parents' house, looking terrified like something is following her. A neighbor asks if she's okay, and she responds that she's fine. Her dad also notices her strange behavior and wonders what the hell she's doing. She runs away from where she was standing, constantly looking around, then circles back and goes back into the house. Her dad follows her inside. Moments later, she runs out again and quickly gets into their car. She drives away, constantly checking her mirrors, and makes her way all the way to the beach. Her family tries calling her, and she finally picks up. She tells her dad that she loves him, but she's clearly terrified. Something is coming. The next morning, she's found dead on the beach, folded into a hot new yoga position. On the other side of town, in some rundown suburban area where lower middle-class folks are just trying to survive their day-to-day struggles, Jay is soaking in their questionable swimming pool. Her sister Kelly drops by to ask if she wants to hang out tonight, but Jay tells her she can't. She's got a date with an abolitious guy. After her soak, Jay heads inside where her sister and their friends Yara and Paul are watching TV while their mom is getting hammered. Paul is not so secretly head over heels in love with Jay, but he's so deep in the friend zone that he's hanging out with her little sister just to catch a glimpse of her from time to time. Later, Jay gets ready for her big date. A real man named Hugh takes her to the movies. To pass the time, they play a little game called the trade game. Jay asks Hugh if he could trade places with anyone around them. Who would he pick? He picks his person to trade with, and then she guesses that he picked some guy who's flirting with a girl, but Hugh says no. He picked the young kid because the kid still has his whole life ahead of him and nothing to worry about yet. Inside the theater, it's Jay's turn. She picks someone and asks Hugh to guess. Hugh looks behind him, points toward the entrance, and asks if she means the girl in the yellow dress, but Jay doesn't see anyone. Suddenly nervous, Hugh asks if they can leave. He practically drags her out of the theater and hurries toward his car. Jay finds all of this extremely suspicious, but Hugh smooths things over by taking her to dinner afterward to make up for his weird behavior. The following night, they go on another date and make out by the water. After some softcore kissing, Jay asks Hugh if he wants to, do it in the car. Naturally, the guy's down. After some mediocre intercourse, Hugh gets out of the car and starts rumbling around in the back while Jay talks about her dreams. Then, out of nowhere, Hugh climbs on top of her and presses a rag soaked with chloroform over her mouth until she passes out. When Jay wakes up, she's tied to a wheelchair in some abandoned parking garage. Hugh is pacing like he's guarding the place. The first thing he does is apologize. He swears he's not going to hurt her. He says she probably won't believe what he's about to tell her, but she needs to listen closely because it's important. He explains that there's this thing that's going to follow her. Someone passed it to him, and now he's passed it to her. It's basically like a supernatural STD that spreads through sex. It can look like anyone, someone she knows, or a complete stranger, and it will do whatever it can to get close to her. Hugh tells her he can see it now. He wheels her toward the edge of the garage, and they look down. A completely naked woman is walking slowly, almost seductively, toward them. He begs Jay to sleep with someone else as soon as possible, because if this thing kills her, it'll come back for him. As the woman gets closer, Hugh uses the moment to prove that it's no longer after him. He backs away with the wheelchair, putting some distance between Jay and the approaching woman. He warns her, never go into a place with only one exit. It's slow, but it's not stupid. Then Hugh runs to his car with Jay, and they speed off. He takes her home and literally dumps her out of the car in her underwear right in front of her friends. Before driving off, he tells Kelly and the others not to let it touch her. Honestly, the way he choreographed that STD pass-off, it's giving well-practiced Predator. Jay's at least number 4 on the list. Jay, crying in the middle of the street in nothing but her underwear, stumbles up to her front porch, completely traumatized. The police arrive to figure out what the hell Hugh did to her. Of course, they want to know if the sex was consensual, and it was. Jay tells the cops that she knows where he lives, but she's never been inside his home. They take her to the hospital for an examination. Her mom's not there. Guess she had more important drinking to do. Back at home, Jay looks at herself in the mirror to check if there are any physical changes, but there aren't. The next day, she's back at school. When she looks out the window, she sees a strange old woman in a hospital gown walking straight toward her. There's something off about the way she moves. Jay now knows Hugh wasn't lying. She jumps up and runs out of class. As she walks through the school's hallways, the old bag comes around the corner. Jay tries to talk to her, but she doesn't respond, and it's clear the other people can't see her either. So Jay runs, jumps in her car, and drives straight to the diner where Kelly and Paul work. She tells them exactly what Hugh said and what he did to her, but they don't believe her. Paul offers to stay over and sleep on the couch. The freaking simp is at it again, but to his credit, he says he'll stay up all night to keep an eye out. That night, the girls get ready for bed. Even Yara came over. Jay can't sleep, so she heads downstairs to sit with Paul. They have a weird, awkward conversation about how Paul was her first kiss until he kissed Kelly, which is kind of gross and definitely ruined his shot. Then they hear a window break. Paul gets up to check it out. Something broke the kitchen window, but no one's there. Paul runs upstairs to wake Kelly, and Jay checks the kitchen herself. That's when she sees her. A woman, one boob out, peeing herself, slowly walking toward her. Jay flees upstairs and locks herself in her room. Paul and Kelly knock and ask what's going on. Jay tells them it's in the house, but the others can't see anything and try to convince her that nothing's there. They manage to talk her into opening the door. She lets them in and quickly locks it behind them. But then there's another knock. Kelly opens the door and Yara's there, but she's not alone. A tall man walks in behind her. Jay screams and runs to her balcony, climbing down the side of the house. She jumps on her bike and gets the hell out of there. Across the street, their neighbor Busy, flirting with some older woman, watches Jay ride off. Jay stops at the park and contemplates her life while sitting on the swing. Kelly, Yara, and Paul come running toward her. Jay is crying and begs Kelly not to tell their mom because she knows she won't believe her anyway. But then a boy starts walking toward them. Jay nervously asks Kelly if she sees him too, and Kelly confirms yes. It's their neighbor from across the street, Greg. He ditched the cougar he was dating to come check on Jay. They try to figure out what the heck happened to her, but Jay can't really explain without sounding completely insane. So Greg heads off to get his car. It's time to pay their dear friend Hugh a visit. When they arrive at the abandoned squatter house where Jay thought Hugh lived, it's clear the place was just a front. He set it up so she wouldn't be able to find him after giving her his deadly supernatural sex disease. They break in to search for any clues. The house is rigged with wind chimes to alert him if anyone entered, and there are holes in the walls and floor, likely escape routes in case something started following him. In the attic, Paul finds a stack of Hugh's special interest magazines, and naturally, he flips through them. That's when he discovers a photo of Hugh with an ex-girlfriend. It's Annie from the beginning of the movie. See, told you this guy had passed it on before. They recognize the Letterman jacket Annie is wearing in the photo, and that gives them their next destination. They arrive at Hugh's old school to dig up more dirt on his lying ass. After flipping through some yearbooks, they find out the bastard's real name is Jeff Rudman. Instead of going to the police, they decide to visit him themselves. Greg and Jay clearly have some history, which triggers Paul. They're a little too touchy for two people who supposedly haven't done the horizontal tango. Jay knocks on Jeff's parents' door and asks if he's home. He is, so they call him outside to explain what the hell is happening to her. Jeff admits that he can still see it, and that the best thing Jay can do is pass it on to someone else. He really tries to convince her it shouldn't be hard for her, because, as he so charmingly puts it, she's a girl. Plenty of guys would be willing to sleep with her, so just pick one and get it over with. They ask who gave it to him, and he says it was some random one-night stand at a bar. But Jeff suddenly gets distracted by a girl walking toward them. He's clearly traumatized and freaks out anytime anyone even remotely approaches. So, yeah, in a nutshell, his advice is the thing will keep walking toward her, so she needs to put as much distance between them as possible, and then figure out who she's banging. They leave Jeff's house, and Greg takes them to a beachside lodge far away to lie low for a while. They all stay there and rig it up with wind chimes so Jay doesn't get caught off guard. The next day, Greg heads to a shed near the beach to grab his dad's gun so he can teach Jay how to shoot. She's not half bad at it either. Later, they're chilling on the beach. Yara's swimming in the water, and Greg gets up to water the plants. But suddenly, Yara also starts walking up behind Jay, except it's not Yara. The others don't see anything, but they do see Jay's hair get yanked into the air. She jumps up and tries to break free. Paul, bless his simp heart, attacks it with a lawn chair, and surprisingly, he hits it, but it throws him backward like a rag doll. Paul's distraction buys a second for Jay, Kelly, and Yara to run toward the shed, with with Paul right behind them. Jay grabs the gun and nearly shoots Greg, who comes sprinting in too. After a couple of warning shots, Jay manages to shoot it in the head. It drops to the ground, but it gets right back up. Jay slams the door and locks it. It morphs back into the huge man and tries to force its way in. It knocks a hole in the bottom of the door. Greg peers through it and says he doesn't see anything. Jay tells him again that it's definitely there. Then, a little boy appears at the hole and crawls inside. Jay runs out through the side entrance. A little girl follows her out of the shed, and Jay panics. She steals Greg's car and speeds off, leaving the rest of them behind. She's not watching the road when a pickup truck starts backing up. She swerves off into a cornfield and crashes. Jay wakes up in the hospital with all her friends gathered around, waiting for her to wake up. At this point, after all that's happened during my first watch, I was nervous as hell for Jay. Are these friends stupid? Even Jeff told them that this girl can't stay still. She has to keep moving. Jay is clearly terrified, knowing it could come around the corner at any second. But it doesn't. She looks at Greg and decides to ask him if he'd sleep with her. They send Paul home so Greg can bang the crap out of her. Greg, now the new target, doesn't seem nearly as worried as he should be. Paul, meanwhile, is insulted she didn't ask him. 3 days go by, and Greg still hasn't seen anything. He starts thinking Jay might just be crazy, but Jay knows it's only a matter of time. That night, Jay watches Greg's house like a hawk. Someone walks toward it with clear intent. Jay knows it's the creature. It knocks on Greg's door, and when he doesn't answer, it throws a rock through his window and crawls inside. Jay tries calling him. No answer. So she runs across the street, jumps through the broken window, and heads upstairs. The creature is pounding on Greg's bedroom door. It's taken the form of Greg's mom. When he opens the door, it jumps on him. Jay follows and sees what it's doing. It's literally humping him to death. She gets the heck out of there, jumps in her car, and drives far enough to put some distance between her and the thing. Eventually, she pulls over and falls asleep on the hood of her car. The next morning, she wakes up near a beach and spots a boat with a few guys on it. She undresses and swims out to them, presumably to let them run a train on her. Now, we don't see it happen. The shot ends with her taking her clothes off, but it's strongly implied. After natural selection tags another poor soul with her deadly STD, she heads home to finally get a good night's sleep. The next morning, Paul shows up to check in. He wants to know why she chose Greg over him. Jay tells him she thought Greg would be okay. He wasn't scared. Plus, they'd already slept together back in high school, so it wasn't a big deal to her. See? I told you there was a "we banged before" type of connection between Jay and Greg. Paul tries to kiss her, but she turns him down. His simp heart can't take it. He wants to help, not just sit on the sidelines. He might have a plan to kill it. They get ready and drive off. As they're leaving, Jay sees a naked man standing on her roof. They got out just in time, which, if you're keeping track, probably means the boat guy is dead already. That means not only is Greg dead, but now some innocent bystander is too. So that means there is an even bigger burden on Jay's conscience. They drive to the old indoor swimming pool where they used to play as kids. They surround the pool with plugged-in appliances, rigging it like a cartoon death trap. Jay gets in the water. Now all they can do is wait. Eventually, it shows up. This time, it's taken the form of Jay and Kelly's father. Jay doesn't tell the others what it looks like so that they won't freak out even more. It just stands at the edge, staring at her. Then it starts circling the pool, grabbing appliances and throwing them at her. Luckily, they don't work as expected. Jay doesn't get electrocuted. She dodges as more appliances come flying her way. Paul runs to grab the gun while the thing tries to hit Jay. He tells her to keep pointing at it so he can line up a shot. He misses and hits Yara in the leg instead. He's such a useless dumbass. But Paul isn't fazed that he just shot his friend and keeps firing. He manages to shoot it in the hand, but that doesn't stop it from attacking Jay. Kelly runs toward it and throws a blanket over it. Paul shoots it in the head, and it falls into the water. Jay tries to swim away, but it grabs her and pulls her under. Now that Paul keeps shooting until he finally hits it in the head again. This time, it lets go. Jay climbs out of the pool and looks back. It's gone. All she can see is a red type of smoke filling the water. At this point, it's unclear whether it's actually dead or just taking a break from tormenting Jay. But in the next shot, Jay decides she's done running. She finally lets Paul sleep with her, and afterward, they have a very awkward conversation about their feelings. Jay's not really into Paul, but he's saved it. The next day, Paul drives through the back streets of town and spots two ladies of the night standing on a corner. Again, the movie doesn't show what happens, but it's heavily implied that Paul sleeps with one of them to pass it on. And in the final shot of the film, we see Jay and Paul walking hand in hand. In the distance, someone is following them, but we'll never know. Is it just some random person, or has the curse come full circle? Before I give my review, big shout out to VentureCo on Reddit. This genius came up with what might be the most inhumane but arguably safest way to survive the creature. He suggests experimenting with animals first. If you're sure it'll follow one, you go swimming with dolphins and shove your member into their blowhole. It'll never catch a dolphin. And if that doesn't work, you lure it into a room, fill it with concrete, weld the doors shut, and pay a company to drop the whole damn thing into the Mariana Trench. I feel like this should have been option 1, but to each their own. And that's a wrap. I really loved it. Follows. I can understand why some people might not like the ending, because it doesn't hold your hand. Instead, it leaves you in the dark. But that's what makes it so effective. The ending gives you the exact same feeling Paul and Jay have as they walk off. Uncertainty. They don't know if it will ever come back to haunt them, and that ambiguity is what makes the ending so great. I also think the film did an excellent job exploring its underlying themes. The overall commentary on teen sexuality, the dangers of STDs, and the pressure society places especially on young women to keep their body count low really shines through. It forces Jay to sleep with men out of fear, essentially stripping her of the right to fully consent. That fear that something terrible will happen if she doesn't is something many young girls are confronted with, and it makes the story all the more relevant and unsettling.